All right, guys, tonight I am leaving to go gold mining, and I'm leaving the show with my producer and publicist, Urban, okay? Urban's my guy, and he's going to be taking care of you for the next 5 days until I return Friday, all right? So I want you to chill out. Don't worry, I'll be back, but trust in Urban. He loves the show, and we are working it out between him and I to help me when I just can't be there for you guys, because I know you still want content even when I'm gone. Therefore, I'm going to be sending you content from a guy by the name of Masters Mahan. And I'm telling you, the kind of stuff that he exposes will blow you away, and I think it's important that you learn it and understand it, because there are satanic ritual abuse people all over the world, and they're survivors. They need to be heard, and this is why I want you to watch these for the next 5 days. God bless you, thank you, and be good to Urban. Love you guys, bye.
Welcome, seekers of truth and aficionados of the profound, to Cause Before Symptom, where we dive deep into the roots of issues, not just their surface-level symptoms. My name is Josh, or as some of you might know me, Urban. Today, I'll be filling in for Pastor Carner while he is out gold mining as your guide through this intellectual odyssey that aims to identify the cause before the symptom. For more free resources, ebooks, videos, and research materials, check out my bio at bio.link/officialurban. All relevant information from this episode will be posted in the episode description or show notes. Now, without further ado, let's get into the show.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Calls Before Symptom. We're at a little earlier show today, which is out of the ordinary, I'm aware. Last night we had some technical difficulties and we didn't get to present all the information that we wanted to present. So we're going to go ahead and present it now. We're streaming on Rumble, X, BitChute, Facebook, YouTube. So we're streaming all over right now. And I'm eager to see how many people we actually get to view this live. I do have some good news for you. I did talk to James just a little while ago. He is back from his gold mining trip. So you can actually expect a show from him later tonight at the normal time, which is 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. So yeah, it's been a very interesting week. A lot of pullback while trying to do the show, definitely some spiritual warfare, but we're not going to let that stop it. I think the information that you guys are hearing, the Masters Mahan Podcast, is important to hear, and I think it's worthwhile information, so I'm not going to let anything stop me from presenting it. Without further ado, today we're going to listen to episode on Disney programming, Mickey Mouse programming, and what is known as spell casting. And in my opinion, these are some of the most important episodes of the entire series. Because once you understand this, you can understand what's going on in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and start episode 17, and we're going to just listen, and you can expect some commentary from me afterwards. But guys, I've appreciated being your guest host this week. It's been a great experience for me. I've learned a lot, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity. But that's it. Here we go, guys. Thank you.
You are now listening to the Masters Mahan Podcast.
Episode 17, Mickey Mouse Programming. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones. This will be a difficult episode for some. We are not unsympathetic to this. We suspect that many of you have sensed it for a long time. But like any corruption or entry-level Luciferian lie, there is always just enough truth or perceived goodness to make
the medicine go down, medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
The sugar is needed or you would reject the medicine.
Ouch!
This is the karma, the royal secret. The schizophrenia, the doublespeak, the new math, the harmony.
You have reached the mountain peak of Masonic instruction, a peak covered by a mist. The hint is in the royal secret, the true word. Man, born of a double nature, of what we call good and what we call evil, finds the purpose of his being only when these two natures are in perfect harmony. Harmony, my brethren, harmony is the true word.
It is designed to help you create cognitive dissonance. If you mix a little Romney in your ice cream, you can believe the entire ice cream is good, because part of it is good.
In a most delightful way.
But you will also be eating some Romney.
That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome? There were covens in Europe, that's what they're called, the congregation. They use blood in their rituals, and the blood that has the most power is baby's blood. And they don't just use the blood, they use the flesh, too.
Rosemary.
Can't we just accept this as the new normal?
Hollywood, to me, is sort of a branch of the CIA. I think it's just been laced with intelligence operations. Mind control really runs rampant in Hollywood among the musicians and the acting community. It's just everywhere.
I pledge to be a better ally for the LGBTQ plus community. I and the leadership team are determined to use this moment on how we can take action.
Well, the truth is different these days. It's more of a hunch you're willing to die for.
No, it's not.
If in some small way we have increased awareness, tolerance, and acceptance of gay-themed issues in the media, then we welcome that as a happy byproduct of our work.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
One of the Luciferians' biggest tricks is to set up a hero among us, making him more than human, nearly a demigod. Then once the mythology is strongly believed, they release the human dirt on the person to destroy hope. This is a subset of the Judas Clause. It feels like betrayal and teaches that it's okay to embrace one's harmony between good and evil, and that no one is really good. We realize that you may soon be feeling this way during this episode, particularly if you have bought into the mythology. Disney magic. In this episode, we will explore mind mapping, some predictive programming, and mind control, known in the occult as Mickey Mouse programming, by stepping into the darkness, or as some handlers trigger their children, and programmed sex toy himbos.
Come to Mickey.
Come to Mickey.
Come to Mickey.
Stated 3 times.
Come on! Slide down to the basement with us!
The child, the one you were after!
Will you be quiet? Don't you think I'm aware of the situation?
That's right, the child may have escaped!
Yeah, well, until we know for sure, we're gonna act like nothing happened, understand? You just get the machine up and running, I'll take care of the kid. And when I find whoever let it out, they're dead!
Now, it's perfectly normal.
Normal? What do you know about normal? What does anyone in this family know about normal?
Now, wait a minute, young lady.
They act normal, Mom. I want to be normal. The only normal one is Jack, and he's not even toilet trained.
Lucky.
But if I know you, I know what you'll do. You'll love me at once, the way you did once upon a dream.
Oh my goodness,
What's the matter?
it's midnight.
Yes, so it is, but why?
Goodbye.
Oh, no, wait. You can't go now. It's only...
Oh, I must. Please. Please, I must.
But why?
Well, Oh, the prince. I haven't met the prince.
The prince?
Mickey was supposed to be a rabbit. Oswald the rabbit, to be exact. What's up with rabbits? Remember Alice in Wonderland?
We really shouldn't be doing this.
The rabbit is the ambassador of Lucifer in the occult.
What a peculiar place to have a party.
This is because the rabbit lives in the soil lane, which is a euphemism for the anus, the manure hole, the tunnel of death.
And for that man there was a grave, and from that grave there grew a tree.
The white rabbit symbolizes the light bringer, whom the occult gifts a child through sodomy, through the anus, the dirt tunnel.
What a peculiar place to have a party. You know, Dino, we really shouldn't be doing this.
When their demonic gift, sometimes called an animal guide, is properly inserted, the victim will see a white flash in their brain.
Say cheese!
This rabbit ambassador is invoked when a wizard forces the spring.
We force the spring.
With his wand on those deemed worthy of transformation by a witch, a mother of darkness. This same white rabbit, he's black in the movie Donnie Darko.
Now this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
Brings a basket, his scrotum, with his testicles, Easter eggs filled with a surprise.
No, Michelle, Obama is a transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
For the child to rebirth them into the forced spring, overseen by the mother of darkness. In this case, Mother Isis Ishtar or Easter.
Here comes Peter Cottontail, hopping down the bunny trail. Hippity, hoppity, happy Easter Day.
Since this has absolutely nothing to do with our Christ conquering death, I have started calling Christian Easter celebratory season Resurrection Day. Why not? Let it annoy the pagans and morons among us. They are quick to annoy you and me. Little things like this may be all we can do to fight back with all that we have left.
Right now it's too late. It's over for you, white race.
Incidentally, these eggs are also understood in the occult to be pine cones, the same you find on the papal staff in the Vatican and all over Luciferiana. More on that at another time. The wizard rabbit, white, Kenyan, or Playboy's gift up the soil lane allows a child access to Wonderland, Fantasyland, but really more like Crazyland, the magic kingdom of mythos. Walter had originally wanted to make Alice's Wonderland cartoons, but when that had run its course, he created Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. When Walt discovered, due to a contractual oversight on his part, that he didn't really own the rights to Oswald, he returned to the Disney Brothers studio in a deep depression. We have all heard the made-up mythology of how Walt invented Mickey on a train ride home while wrapped in a near-celestial vision. This is Disney magical marketing mythological nonsense. The truth came out in 1993 when the Ub Iwerks family, getting a little tired of the exalted Disney myth, admitted the truth. Here is NPR celebrating the 50th anniversary of Ub's death, along with his contribution to animation.
50 years ago today, an animator named Ub Iwerks died. He was never a household name, but he is responsible for some of Disney's greatest special effects, and he designed Mickey Mouse.
Mickey is basically the child of two dads.
He was the person who was doing most of the behind-the-scenes work, and when Walt was taking credit, Oob was the one who was denied credit.
It's not like Walt Disney wasn't integral to the success of Mickey Mouse. He certainly was. In addition to defining Mickey's personality, he literally voiced the character for years. But that doesn't erase the fact that for decades, the collaboration between iWorks and Disney was mostly kept a secret. The two first met as teens in 1919 at a commercial arts studio in Kansas City, Missouri. Though at the time, Ryan says Disney was going by the name Walter Diz. It was actually iWorks who was like, just go by Walt Disney.
You know, Ub was quiet, but a genius. And I mean, literally a genius. And Walt recognized that.
In addition to being an extremely efficient and talented animator, iWorks was able to solve literally any technical problem that was thrown his way. Disney, on the other hand, was an incredible storyteller.
And when you put Walt and Oob together, they were able to do just about anything.
But he only started getting proper credit for his contributions to the world of animation after his death, when his granddaughter, Leslie iWorks, made a documentary about him. After realizing that what she read in animation history books didn't match up with the stories she had heard from her family growing up.
I just wanted to clear that history. And I really wanted to also tell the story of Ub's contributions to Mickey Mouse.
Behind every powerful mouse, there might be a Walt, but behind every Walt, there's probably at least one Ub. For NPR News, I'm Mackenzie Martin.
The truth is that after having lost the rabbit, Walt returned to his team in near-suicidal depression. Ub sat the teary-eyed Walt down and told him that it was a simple matter to turn a rabbit into a mouse, and that any current cartoons in the works with Oswald could be quickly altered to mouse cartoons. While it is true that Walt out of it and decided to go with Ub's designs, he named the new mouse Mortimer Mouse. It's also true that Lillian Disney, Walt's undersexed wife, told him that Mortimer was a terrible name and said, use something like Mickey instead. Walt would have taken credit for her idea too, but she so loved to tell the story, and the fact that Walt actually did care about her, although not physically, and did listen to her when he wasn't drunk or having another terrible bipolar spell. She may have been one of the very few people that he was actually scared of, except for his blackmailers. But do note that Mortimer means Sea of Death. In this, it is one of the names of Lucifer. And what does it all mean? Oswald was Walt's not-so-clever wordplay on Oz-Walt. As a young man, Walt bought into the Oz books and Masonic Demole programming.
I am Oz, the great and powerful. Who are you? Who are you?
Walt believed that he was Oz, the great wizard of imagination. He related to Oz as both a wizard and a charlatan. He was profoundly conflicted by his creative talents, while also being horrified of the darker side of his personality. He saw himself like Jekyll and Hyde. He even drew a self-portrait of himself as such, which occasionally pops up on the internet before being hided again from the public eye. Walt was mortified when MGM got the rights to the Wizard of Oz stories, as he desperately wanted to make them. He did later purchase them when MGM decided that it was not profitable to make a sequel. Few modern Americans have actually read the books. There are 14 books. They are very dark and very demonic. They were written for the Illuminati to program children and the public. We'll discuss them in more detail at another time. After Walt bought the rights, he made an announcement as part of his Mickey Mouse Club show that the studio was going to begin Oz movies. It was called The Rainbow Road to Oz. Here is a portion of that with some interrupting commentary just to beat a dead mouse.
What is this?
Well, it's sort of a book about Oz.
Oh?
Well, it isn't exactly a book. It's more of a shooting script.
Shooting script?
Well, it's like this, Mr. Disney. The studio owns all the Oz stories, right?
Right.
And we've got to think of our future.
Now, I'm going to make a picture out of the Oz stories, but I always figured to make it as a cartoon.
When? Takes you 7 or 8 years to make a cartoon feature, doesn't it?
We have studied enough Illuminism together to recognize two of the characters that Walt was introducing. First, the male himbo.
Well, you got me. What's your proposition?
Well, first of all, we'll take most of the weight off your shoulders. We'll handle the songs for the pictures, the dances, sketches, right? Right! On the off chance we could get you to listen, we've prepared a couple of samples. First, the Scarecrow. Remember the problem he had getting a set of brains? Well, in our story, he has trouble keeping them.
A calico head with cotton brains, they'll shrink, I think, if it ever rains. Jiminy, criminy, criminy, Jiminy, what if it rains?
When programming a biological male as a sex toy, the occult wants him to be friendly, obedient, submissive, sexy, and empty-headed. Note how water shrinks his brains. This is spellcasting. Are you starting to see how it works? But perhaps the girl doll Walt was introducing is even more illuminating.
Here's a happy little character. Dorothy meets her in Oz. She's called the Patchwork Girl.
What happens with her?
Patches, patches, pick some pretty patches. Put the pretty patches in a patchwork quilt.
In the occult, a programmed child is segmented. She is as a quilt, made of different colors or patches, a single whole made up of various parts. Remember our color programming?
Sew and stuff with cotton, add some yarn for hair. One thing they've forgotten, a heart I do declare.
No heart? The boy toy had no brain. You don't want your boy bots thinking, and you don't want your girl toys feeling.
But who needs a heart? Not me, I swear. Patches, patches, when you're made of patches, life's a gay and giddy holiday.
This is the moral, the linguistic programming, the inner mantra to calm the horror inside, the escape concept. When you're made of fragments, life is more fun. Because
with laughter and song, I'll go dancing along my happy little patchwork way.
remember this programming. Be happy. Just remember the good. We will come back to this very soon. After begging Walt to impregnate her a second time, and he could not, his wife Lillian agreed to an adoption. She wanted a sibling for Diane, their only daughter. Walt bought her a daughter. Friends of the Disney family were profoundly disturbed when they saw how Walt would bathe her and dress her, and in a sense treat her like a dolly, even into her preteens. At her death, she was not buried in the family plot, but was cremated and her ashes were sprinkled in paradise. Ultimately, her part of the Disney estate amounted to about $400 million, and since her death, her children have been fighting over it. Their accusations about life as grandchildren of Walt include accusations of conspiracy, mental incompetence, and financial misconduct, plus insinuations of kidnapping and incest. Do an internet search for Walt Disney Family Feud if you want to read all about it yourself. The most disturbing of all, however, are the eyewitnesses who saw Walt aggressively kissing young male star actor Bobby Driscoll. He's the very talented boy who played Johnny in The Song of the South, and Jeremy Kincaid in So Dear to My Heart, and Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island. He's probably most famous today as the voice of Peter Pan in Disney's masterful version of the same.
What's a kiss?
Oh, well, I'll show you.
Many adults who saw Walt and Bobby together were profoundly disturbed by their interactions. They said that Walt was completely mesmerized by the boy. Bobby was the very first actor that Walt put under contract and would frequently sit him on his lap when they were together. During the filming of Song of the South on March 4th, 1947, to celebrate Bobby's 9th birthday the day before, Walt had a huge cake delivered to the set. He came down personally to present it. And Ruth Warwick, who played Sally in the film, said, "We'll let her speak for herself."
Walt gave Bobby a kiss. It wasn't on the cheek. It was a big, wet sloppy, one right on the mouth that lingered far too long. It was inappropriate and disturbing. Later, I started hearing stories about them, but I don't want to go into that. You see, I want to continue to work in Tinseltown.
She knew what Kirk Douglas learned when he felt that Walt had misused his children's imagery and attempted to sue, but gave up. He said,
"You can't sue a god."
And then he dropped the case. While filming So Dear to My Heart, Bobby befriended fellow actors Beulah Bondi and Burl Ives. He confided in these two like parental figures on set. Later, when Bondi and Ives were discussing Bobby and Walt, Beulah Bondi said that she feared that Walt's attention to the boy was excessive and concerning. Ives looked her straight in the eye and said,
"Excessive? I have another word for it."
Then he said to her,
"Walt's little boy toy is a tragedy just waiting to happen."
All of Bobby's films for Walt made a fortune, and many at the studio said that no one could turn old Grumpy Bear around as fast as little Bobby could. They all called it a love affair behind Grumpy Bear's back, of course. When bisexual film producer Howard Hughes saw Bobby's films, he asked Walt if he could borrow his boy to play the child star in his thriller film, The Window. Walt allowed it. On screening the picture,
Did you tell your parents about this?
Oh, no, sir, never. They think I'm always making things up.
You know, son, it's a pretty serious thing to make something like this up, don't you?
Oh, yes, sir, I know that. I'm not making it up.
Hughes hated it. He told the director,
"It's a lousy picture. No one will want to see this piece of shit. Send this no-talented Driscoll kid back to Disney so he can resume pounding the kids' ass."
Hughes ordered the film buried, but when his staff encouraged him to release it, it was another huge Bobby hit. In fact, Bobby was presented with an Oscar for Outstanding Juvenile Actor of 1949, in part because of this film. After handing him the Oscar, presenter Donald O'Connor warned him that soon he would be reaching puberty and to be very careful. It is a sad fact that most pedophiles are sexually attracted to children of a particular age range, and not really an individual child at all. Most pedophiles are not interested in children older than 14. When Bobby turned 15, Walt dumped him cold, and when Bobby went to his office to find out what had happened, he was refused admittance. Walt wanted nothing to do with him at all. Unable to get movie work, he did do some TV where he became close friends with Ronald Reagan's first wife, Jane Wymond. Bobby confided many things to her, and she later told friends,
I've had several long talks with Bobby. He is emotionally in trouble and needs help. There was something going on between Walt and Bobby, something that's been hushed up, something that should be investigated. Oh, I abhor child abuse.
Ann Baxter, who may be most famous for playing Nefertiti in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, also knew him and said,
I never met a child who talked like Bobby. He was highly sexed. Once he told me that he couldn't wait to grow up so he could finally have sex with girls.
Oh. Well, get on with it, girl.
My name is Wendy. Wendy Mora Angela Dawes.
Wendy's enough.
Oh.
I gave him my phone number and told him to call me in 10 years. He made me promise not to change my number so he could get in touch with me a decade later.
When some neighbor boys called him Disney's fag and asked if he wanted to suck them off like he would Uncle Walt. Bobby grabbed a gun and pistol whipped one of the boys. He was arrested but released and soon got into drugs. Needing drug money, he forged a check and was arrested. He was sent to the Men's Narcotic Rehabilitation Center in Chino, California. There, he was raped repeatedly and introduced into what he called
the darker side of homosexual life.
He also said,
"It did no good to complain because the jailers saw the rapes as part of the punishment that a little fag deserved."
Once released, he made several attempts to reconnect with Walt, but nothing he did made any difference. He said,
"I was dropped like garbage when I was no longer a cute little kid, and I didn't appeal to him anymore."
Afterward, Bobby had a number of homosexual liaisons and wrote his memoirs. Those who read them said, his charges in the book were sensational. The major accusation is that his once-beloved Uncle Walt would sexually molest him at the studio. No one dared print his book.
You can't sue a god.
By the age of 30, Bobby had vanished. Over a year later, his mother found out what happened to him, when after a lengthy search, she was able to match his fingerprints with an unknown body that had been found in a New York warehouse. 2 teenage boys had been exploring the abandoned structure and found the corpse of a dead man who had overdosed on something. The police took the body, fingerprinted it, and then buried it in a mass grave on Hart Island. It became his Never Never Land. His mother said,
Bobby loved Walt Disney and would do anything that he ever told him to do.
And so we asked the question, just what did Uncle Walt tell him to do?
You only forgot one thing.
What's that?
Mickey Mouse isn't here.
Oh, that's right, Mickey Mouse.
Huh? Here I am, Walt.
Well, hi, Mickey. I didn't see you come in.
Oh, I've been here all the time.
The ultimate goal of satanic Mickey Mouse programming is to facilitate Oz programming, which we have not yet discussed in detail. But in brief, and to oversimplify, Oz programming is designed to take us into the modern age without the need for Christianity. Once we have embraced Lucifer's plans for our modernity, the next phase is to prepare us for Armageddon, and lastly for the satanic version of a one-world government, Zion Utopia, Emerald City.
You know that we have come to honor with the Norman Cousins Global Governance Award, Walter Cronkite.
Our failure to live up to our obligations to the United Nations is led by a handful of willful senators. They pander to the rest of the religious right wing, that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives. Any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
Which Walt referred to as the Epcot Center. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. It appears that Walt altered his view on life from his Christian Church of England upbringing to Masonry when he found companionship and meaning as a young man in the Masonic Demole Club for boys. In short, all Illuminati-infiltrated organizations have the end goal of turning this planet openly over to Lucifer and crowning him openly as the king of the world at Old Jerusalem. They want to do this because they believe the mythology they are taught. It is important to understand that these do not see themselves as evil, but merely more highly illuminated. They see most of humanity and themselves just as John Todd Collins originally did. Remember this?
I always thought that witchcraft was just witchcraft. There was nothing more to witchcraft than just casting spells, and that we were smarter than the Christians and other religions because we really knew who the gods were, and we were born with special powers because our ancestors had passed them down to us, and all the little stories they like to tell us.
Luciferians love symbology and wordplays, and sure enough, when color technology came to motion pictures, Walt placed his black and white mice, Mickey and Minnie, in red pants. Remember this?
All I see is
Walt's paid rent boys would later say that he wasn't really into, but that he would pay muscular young GIs for the right to play their magic Peter Pan flute. This is the pagan understanding of the symbol. This is the real reason he built the firehouse with its pole on Main Street, USA.
Now, Daisy, will you tell us what it is, please, that the maypole represents?
What a peculiar place to have a party. We really shouldn't be doing this.
He also kept at least 2 secret apartments in Los Angeles for as well. To his credit, all his boys were quick to come when he played them, or paid them, I mean. They all said that Walt was a really great mark. Meaning that he always paid and tipped them well for their full service requirements. Hey, musically endowed boys need to pay their pipers too, you know.
Shh! He'll hear you.
And Mickey's yellow shoes. Why yellow? Here's Walt's version.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. Follow the rainbow over the stream. Follow a fellow who follows a dream. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Follow the yellow brick road. 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 Follow the yellow brick road.
Note the changes to the MGM version of the song.
Follow the rainbow over the stream. Follow a fellow who follows a dream. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road.
Who is the fellow that we are to follow? It's the ambassador of the King of the Sea of Death, the one who has the dream. These lyrics were not a part of the Oz movie by MGM, so why was it added here by Disney? Obviously, the message is to follow Walt.
We play fair and we work hard and we're in harmony. M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse! Mickey Mouse! Mickey Mouse! Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse.
Remember that harmony is the Royal Illuminati secret.
You have reached the mountain peak of Masonic instruction.
Remember?
The hint is in the royal secret, harmony.
We play fair and we work hard and we're in harmony.
Is the true word and the royal secret.
Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me?
Which makes possible the empire of true Masonic brotherhood.
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Mickey Mouse.
In Mickey Mouse programming today, the goal is to compartmentalize masculinity. Mickey is the model. He is the man boy, the Peter Pan, the castrati. As the replacement for the Oswald rabbit, he's the one who lives in the dirt hole. He is a submissive until triggered, and then he has red rage under the surface.
Hey, Mickey! What? Hey, let her go!
Hey, Julius! Let her go!
That was close.
Happy anniversary, Minnie.
You're so romantic.
This is the major aspect of Mickey Mouse programming for males and male alters, whether the host be
LGBTQI, plus.
I don't like you either.
As an example of the overriding goals of Mickey Mouse programming, one of Bob Hope's programmed sex toys, Susan Ford, had some of her programming at Disneyland. It started when she was 5 years old and continued often afterward, especially on birthdays and other special anniversaries. As you hear her account, remember, it is typical for a normal person to spend their special anniversary dates with parents and family and one's father. These are her words.
When I was 5 years old, my mother and father took me to the newly opened Disneyland in Anaheim, California. As we walked down Main Street, we ran into Walt Disney, and my father stood aside as Walt Disney, larger than life to me, bent down and shook my hand. He told me that if I would write to him, he would write back to me. I didn't consciously remember anything else after that. What happened next, though, as I later recalled, was that Walt Disney looked at my father with eyes that said important things I couldn't understand. My father then led my mother in the other direction, and I was left alone with Walt Disney. My parents never said goodbye or anything, they just left me and walked away. I was terrified and confused at realizing that my parents just disappeared. Walt took me to an office, lifted me upon a big desk that had a glass piece on top, and told me that he was my real father.
Luke, you do not yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
I'll never join you!
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed me.
I am your father.
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
He said the Mickey Mouse Club was my real family, where I really belonged. Everyone was always telling me I belonged to a different family than my parents, and I didn't understand. It was all very confusing. Walt Disney seemed nice, but I wasn't with him very long. He called another man in, and that man took me by the hand and led me away. This man was a very bad man, and he really scared me. He took me into another room and gave me those Viewmaster box glasses to look into. He showed me pictures in them that were so scary that other parts of my broken mind had to come to see them. It was way too much for a little girl to see. Dead things, cut up bodies, dead cats skinned with big eyeballs and their tails cut off, people cut up, that sort of thing. We had that toy at home, but mine had Disney cartoon pictures in it. This event involved several of my personalities. Next, the man took me to scary rides and poked me with needles in my waist and legs while he said things during the Alice in Wonderland ride. Like,
"This is not really happening. I am not really sticking this needle in your leg. You are just like Alice. You also ate the large mushroom and feel funny. This is not real."
He kept laughing and acting like all this was fun and games and really amusing, but it was terrifying and confusing to me, and I couldn't understand why he was hurting me. Parts of me split off as they withstood the abuse, and I pushed the experiences deep into my subconscious mind as my programming dictated.
Many times, Susan's programming torture sessions took place when a ride was temporarily closed down for repair or routine maintenance, even when the park was open. Often a VP host or Mickey policeman would flash a badge and take her to the front of the line.
I was taken on the Jungle Boat ride at Disneyland at night. It was very dark, and the ride had been temporarily closed, so no one was in line as my parents guided me through the area where people normally waited to enter the ride. We were all alone, and I was terrified, anticipating what was to occur next. I had learned early on, and knew at a very deep subconscious level, that my parents were of no protection to me. Instead, they were often the very ones that delivered me to very terrifying people, experiences, and places. This night was no different. I was taken to the very back of the boat, and a man in a dark suit emerged and said,
"I will take it from here."
At which point my father took my mother by the elbow and escorted her robotically away. I was very afraid.
"Laura!"
the man called out. Laura was my school personality who was programmed to be cooperative and helpful. He said,
"Laura, I need your help so that things will run very smoothly tonight."
Yes, sir.
I replied. Now switch to Laura.
"I want you to turn around 7 times, and I will be tying a rope around your waist, so we don't lose you here tonight."
I couldn't imagine how I was about to get lost on this big boat, but I complied as he tied the rope around my waist, and as commanded, I began turning as he counted.
1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, shut the door.
He meant the door to my mind.
5, 6, pick up sticks. In. 7 will do the trick.
I didn't know what the trick was, but I was soon to find out.
Here, now you just sit down here.
As he pointed to a place at the back of the boat, while he held on to me with the rope like I was a dog on a leash. Before I knew exactly what was happening, he lifted me up and plunged me into that cold, dark water. As I hit the water, I was sure that the alligators that I'd seen earlier that day on the jungle cruise were going to get me and eat me alive in the dark. The boat was going, and I was being dragged behind it. I held onto the rope so that I could stay facing forward. Triggering my world of Oz programming, the man yelled,
"Lions and tigers and bears! Oh my!"
Then pointing into the dark water near me, he tapped into my Peter Pan theme when he warned,
"I believe there's an alligator there on your left. No, I mean on your right. Right there behind you. He's swimming right up behind you on your other left."
Now do you understand why that stupid alligator swallowed a clock?
Cutting your hand off was only a childish prank, you might say.
Aye, but throwing it to that crocodile, that cursed beast liked the taste of me so well, he's followed me ever since, licking his chops for the rest of me.
He'd have heard you by now, Captain, if he hadn't swallowed that alarm clock. But now when he's about, he warns you, as you might say, with his tick-tock, 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 tick-tock.
Never smile at a crocodile. No, you can't get friendly with a crocodile. Don't be taken in by his welcome grin. He's imagining how well you'd fit within his skin. Say good night, not good day. Clear the aisle and never smile at Mr. Crocodile.
Smee! Save me, Smee, please! Don't let him get me, Smee, please! Don't let him get me, Smee! Smee!
I hear him. He's coming.
Oh no, not the hourglass game again.
Are we ready?
Please don't make us watch your stupid hourglass and scare us to do what you want.
We're tired of your sick games.
We're now in a very, very dangerous situation where if you don't do what I want you to do, then the meat axe falls.
Not the meat axe.
I'll get you, my pretty.
I'm a mechanical boy.
You may call me Tick-Tock.
What is your wish, O Master?
just a rabbit with a waistcoat and a watch.
Oh, my fearing whiskies. I'm late.
Are you starting to see how it works? The clock is necessary to invoke panic and fear. Remember, people act out of fear. Fear is faith in the occult. It is the power force for action. Fight and flight. Do, don't think. Obey, or else the fear will come true. She continues.
I was frantically panicked, and in an attempt to make it all go away, I squeezed my eyes as tightly shut as I could and held onto the rope for dear life.
You're a very strong little girl.
He called out.
Just like your father told me you were. You know, the survival of the fittest.
Then he began to reel me back in and lifted me up by the rope as I climbed over the railing to get back on the boat.
You passed that test with flying colors. Your father said that this test would be easy for you.
Is he gone, Smee?
Aye, Captain, all clear. Nothing to worry about.
Oh, Smee, I can't stand it any longer. I tell you, I can't.
Now, Captain. Just relax.
You could fly like Tinkerbell does.
The man then said.
Across the sky at night attached to this rope like you are now. Should I leave it on so that you can fly with Tinkerbell tonight, high in the sky?
No, sir.
I replied, looking down at the rope and shivering. He laughed really loudly.
You know that you fly with her every time you see her fly. You fly high away from all the things you think you remember here. But none of those things really happen. They are all just figments of your imagination. Do you know what figments are?
I shook my head no.
Figments are fruit that you eat. And you have enjoyed all the rides here tonight and had a lot of fun, and now it is almost time for you to go home. You know, like Mickey says in the song, now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. MACKEY MOUSE.
Yes,
I said, now in total hypnotic, robotic state. He said,
when you see Tinkerbell and all the beautiful fireworks here tonight, you will remember the good and only the good things that happened here today and tonight. All the good will float up into your conscious mind just like Tinkerbell flies high in the sky. So will all the good things that happened fly high up in your conscious mind. You have had the best day here at Disneyland and you want to return as soon as you can for more fun.
They always hurt me real bad if I made a mistake. I tried my best. It seemed like I had to stay at Disneyland for a long time, but at the end of the long day, I got to have a pretty balloon that I looked at as I laid in the back seat of the car all the way home. I was devastated, exhausted, and out of it during the ride back to Woodland Hills, but looked up at the pretty Mickey Mouse ear balloon, or the Mickey Mouse balloon within a balloon, before I finally fell into a long, deep sleep.
Patches, when you're made of patches, life's a gay and giddy holiday. With laughter and song, I'll go dancing along my happy little patchwork way.
We honor Susan for her courage. She will have more to say to us on this and on many other things. When entering the Illuminati, Walt was told that their highest god is Ahura Mazda. Remember that Masonry teaches that they are the culmination of Solomon's wisdom. The Bible says that Solomon's greatest mistake in believing that he was wise was his circumscribing all religions into one whole. A careful study of Masonic rites and lectures will quickly show that they still believe that falsehood. In believing that he was Oz, Walt also believed that he was the Maitreya. Go and do an internet search for Maitreya. Maitreya.
hear you.
And look at the various imagery that comes up. Note the face, the mustache, and Maitreya's Mickey Mouse ears. No one under Walt's employ was allowed to wear a mustache but Walt. But literally millions of kids joined the family. Himbos and bimbos. We will have more on this. But it's time to empty your head, shrink your brains, and go back through the water curtain.
A calico head with cotton brains still shrink, I think, if it ever rains. Jiminy, criminy, criminy, Jiminy, what if it rains?
Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used.
You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
We did it! It was so much fun! Thanks for spending time with me. Till next time we can play, have a Mickey-rific day!
Masters Mahan will continue.
And a shout-out thank you to YouTuber Urban8499 for getting the word out. Dude, we are proud of you. Keep it up. I have just one request. Is 3 times enough to listen? 4 may be your magic number. Thank you. Get the rest of them up. And more to come.
I guess that's kind of funny. I had never heard that last bit ever. I guess he had edited that in after I had originally uploaded a few of these to my YouTube channel. I had uploaded a few of them to my YouTube channel, and he posted a new episode, which he does randomly. He had told me, in the show notes to post the rest of them. So I take that as, I have the permission to post them, and I suppose these are for educational purposes. I don't make money on these. James does not make money on these. Even the creator does not make money on these. These are simply for educational purposes. But as he said, maybe it's worthwhile to listen to these episodes more than once. And I have done that, and I have heard something new each time, even this time that we've listened together. One thing to remember is that this still happens. They just published a documentary about Nickelodeon where, long story short, kids were being abused, and long story short, the people who were actually charged with that abuse still have high-paying, nice, white-collar jobs in Hollywood. So if that doesn't tell you the moral of the story, it should. One thing that I have heard from every single survivor that I've ever talked to, every single one of them, is that Disney World, the Disney facilities, do have programming centers in them. And it's because it's such a sick idea that you take a child off a ride, you do whatever you want with them, you send them back out to their parents, and then they try to tell their parents what happened, and their parents are like, no, you're at Disney World. What are you talking about? That couldn't have happened at Disney World. It's sick. These people are sick, and they get off on it. They have a rush from that sickness, and that's important to realize. All you got to do is watch them when they tell you the truth, and they do tell you the truth. If you want to know what's really going on, I highly suggest you go and you purchase, or don't purchase, download, screw them, don't give them your money, and purchase their books and read their books. They're usually long and boring, but in doing so, they'll tell you exactly what their plans are for you. They just count on you not reading the book. So That being said, we're just going to go right on into the next episode, which is spell casting. This is an important one, and I would implore you to listen very carefully. So, here we go, guys.
You are now listening to the Masters Mahan Podcast. Episode 18, Spell Casting. An introduction. This episode may be deemed inappropriate for some listeners. If you have been abused or are a minor, you should stop now. This episode builds on the previous ones. We have delayed an in-depth exploration of spell casting until now, merely because it takes special eyes to see spells. In fact, unless your eyes be single to the glory of God alone, you can't really see them in their true light. But they can still affect you to one degree or another. Unless you live with one eye shut, I mean. And then they are designed to do so much more than just enchant you.
Look into my eyes. I control you.
The less you resist, the faster the programming will be. Just try not to fight it.
Torture me all you want. Not turning evil.
Oh, we're not going to torture you, Tom. It's too messy. We're just going to scramble your feeble mind till you become our obedient puppet.
Drink it. This mixture will make you more obedient, like a good doggy. Isn't that right?
Yes, Master.
Ah, Master. You know, I like the sound of that.
Oh, magic mirror, let me see thy face.
From all time and distance, across matter and space, your powers have summoned me to promptly show my face. What is your wish, O Master?
I very strongly suggest people be very careful about the TV shows they watch.
Satanists love spells because they reinforce the mythos they are trying to create as your new normal. Spells are like a pair of glasses you wear in front of your eyes. These affect your entire worldview and bend it until it stands as mental proof that mythos is reality, even though it is not. Our stupid smartphones and AI-generated individual content reinforce this today too. The occult knows that when an individual or a society only sees what they are programmed to see, and only hear the things that we want to hear, it isn't long before we come to accept the spell that is cast over us. All of these boost our inner mythology. For this episode, let's step into the darkness, or as the Luciferians trigger, who's a good boy?
Number K9? Number K9? Number K9?
Eu verspinning. I know flash you verspinning. There's boys good van lief.
Number K9? Number K9? Speak. Sit. Roll over. Play dead. Here's a bone. Good boy. Slave. Love me. Do it again.
Good boy. Every time a dominant man calls you a good boy, you will enjoy this phrase and the wonderful power it has over you. Good boy. And a good boy obeys.
A spell is, in reality, a trigger to an action. All faith and fear are really calls to action. It is a command designed to create a specific result at a specific time. The most effective spells are based on pre-indoctrinated mythology that facilitates circular reasoning. Circular reasoning spirals in on itself with no escape except for the one predetermined by the witch or the wizard.
I am Oz!
Many an escaping Dorothy, desperate for the normalcy of Kansas, runs to the wrong pastor, rabbi, or white witch, and while they might believe they have gained a respite, they soon find themselves back.
Follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road.
The important thing to understand is that the spell is believed to work because the mythology is believed to be true, and the mythology is believed to be true because the spell worked. Circular reasoning. It is no accident that spells are hypnotic, and that hypnosis is illustrated and achieved by a repetitive spinning circle.
I want you to stare into the spiral and to relax. And as you stare into the spiral, I want you to relax more and more, going deeper and deeper inside of it, letting it pull you in, almost as if it were a vortex. And as this vortex draws you in deeper and deeper, you find yourself becoming more and more relaxed and more at ease as you continue to go deeper and deeper inside of it.
Hypnosis doesn't really work the way it is portrayed in Hollyweird. Normal, matured adults can't really be hypnotized into doing anything that they don't choose to do.
Your world is ending. You can do nothing, but we can save you.
Save us then.
To save you, we must be asked.
Then what?
We will protect you.
How long for?
Forever.
Do you understand now? Do you see? Asking them for help has conditions. Invite them in, and it will be the last free action you take.
And this is the great secret for the masses.
You could take this planet in a heartbeat. Why do you need consent?
We must be wanted. We must be loved. To rule through fear is inefficient.
Of course.
This is the reason that occult children are beaten until they consent, or the general public is shamed until they obey.
Do you have power?
I have power.
Does power consent?
No, please, stop. Just stop this.
If your consent is impure, it will kill you.
We surrender. What more do you want?
To rule, there must be love. Your consent must be pure. You act out of strategy. Strategy is not consent.
Without consent, their spells break down rapidly. The occult needs you to be exposed to hypnosis early enough in childhood that you are willing to fall into a hypnotic trance state to one degree or another, willingly and on demand. Children who have been hypnotized in school, on television, or online often enough come to see it as normal and can therefore be triggered more easily when it comes to accepting mythology, particularly when in a trance state. People have to be set up to accept an idea, sometimes years before the occult will actually implement it. The occult knows this, and so the realization of their Nazi-based agenda is only beginning to be realized today.
So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you.
You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. but you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco, warn about San Francisco. Make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
We will restate it. It was the Nazis whom the Illuminati tasked with modernizing the ancient methods of mind control by using a scientific perspective. They were searching for ways to guarantee results, which prior to the modern age had been more pharmaceutically based with magical theatrics, smokes, and mirrors.
Nazi Germany had a plan to sexualize America's children. And Nazi German scientists started working with Alfred Kinsey in the US, the Kinsey Institute.
The great sex researcher of the 1950s. Right?
Absolutely. And this is a man who performed sexual acts on 6-week-old babies, boys, and then wrote that every child wants to be sexual. And he interviewed pedophiles and asked pedophiles, what do you think a child wants? It's a completely flawed work, but we have built America's sexual foundation. Every book, every viewer read when they grew up was based off of Kinsey's work, all our curriculums. Hugh Hefner was a subject of Alfred Kinsey.
I didn't know.
Kinsey met Hefner at a college campus, and Hefner was still a virgin at the time, and he groomed Hefner, and he said, look, through publication and pornography, we can desensitize the American male. It is a planned, systemic, and systematic attack.
We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them.
Our Ashken Nazi overlords, brought into the U.S. by the illuminated Bush family after they lost the war, have been actively working for nearly a century to recreate the golden years of Berlin. Most Americans are not taught that prior to the Great Wars, the German peoples had embraced all sorts of pagan Greek ideals: flagrant nudism, open homosexuality, blatant transsexualism, and open pederasty. Adolf Hitler was gay. He was frequently picked on for this by the men of his company when they would catch him sneaking off after hours for sex with other young men out in the rye fields or in the hay barn.
In heaven there is no beer, that's why we drink it here. And when we're gone from here, all our friends will be drinking all our beer.
His favorite boy toy was Emile Maurice, although there were others. Look him up on the internet. He's the odd bird directly to the left of Hitler at Landsberg prison. He's the one in the tight lederhosen playing a balalaika in prison, where Hitler wrote his stupid book, Mein Kampf.
Gesundheit. In heaven there is no beer, that's why we drink it here. And when we're gone from here, all our friends will be drinking all our beer. La, la,
that stupid book Hitler dedicated to Chucky Darwin. The prison guards later said that Emile played the flirty, flitty, submissive clown to Hitler's dominating big top, even though Hitler preferred to end up in the end. You can watch Der Fuhrer squeezing his sphincter during his speeches when his sodomy rage would come out at the pulpit. Embracing his inner hemorrhoids helped him stir the masses from behind.
Hey, der Blitzen zerfallen da! Klitterschuten! Hey!
der Blütensack der Klärten, der Strangulation mit der Fultensack der Fläten und der Blitzsack der Helden. Besiegt, einer Stockenteichen der Welten.
Hitler would later help Emil rise up his ranks, so as to keep him right up Adolf's alley. When it was discovered that Emil was part Jewish. Swell. Dolphy always had his boys back.
Oh boy!
The Illuminati, who helped set up and fund both world wars, knew that Americans would never willingly cast away their Christian Judeo-national morality unless they could get us to accept paganism in stages. The Bible, particularly the Jewish Old Testament, has very clear prohibitions against burlesque, flagrant nudism, open homosexuality, blatant transsexualism, and open pedophilia, and pederasty.
What's a kiss? Shh! He'll hear you!
In fact, where Jesus taught that many things were forgivable with honest repentance, remuneration, and forgiveness from the ones affected, Moses taught that all these crimes were worthy of state-sanctioned death. Bible-reading Americans used to agree with both of these. All occult spells are based on word plays, repetition and/or circular reasoning, and reinforcement through partial real-world truth.
I want you to stare into the spiral and to relax. And as you stare into the spiral, I want you to relax more and more, going deeper and deeper inside of it. And you just feel one final wave of relaxation, 100 times more powerful than the ones from before, to slowly wash up your neck and around your head, leaving you completely relaxed and completely at ease. And now that you're just so completely relaxed and just so completely at ease, you realize you no longer want to think for yourself anymore. You want me to think for you. You want to give me your mind. And when I count down from 5 to 0, you're going to do just that. You're going to give me your mind.
Word plays. Luciferians love word plays. They are most often homonyms, doublespeak, or newspeak. This is because they function in two worlds, just as they do. A very famous one they love is the word communion. Anyone in the know hearing this spell knows that the priest invoking it is seeking sex and sex magic from the one he is casting the spell on. The victim hears the words come, meaning sexual arousal and release, and union, meaning copulation. This is their ritual and their sex magic. If the uninitiated happen to overhear the spell, they hear communion, which of course is a holy Christian ritual where one takes upon oneself the body of Christ and becomes a Christian, or one with God. If anyone in the know points out the spell's use, they can be mocked and shamed for their dirty mind until they back down and begin to self-doubt what they heard.
Hubba. Stop that.
Sheeples, in the greater flock, just wanting to get along, will agree with the innocent interpretation and attack the messenger as a conspiracy theorist.
Can we all get along? Can we get along?
What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy reality? So usually around 6 to 12 months.
Did you hear the wordplay spells that were used on little Susan Ford when she was tortured on the Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland? There, she was commanded,
here,
as in listen,
just sit down here,
as in place, And once she was thrown overboard to Walt's animatronic Crocobots, she was triggered.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. I believe there's an alligator there on your left. No, I mean on your right. Right there behind you. He's swimming right up behind you on your other left.
See? With this understanding, see if you can hear the spell here.
A boy who won't be good might just as well be made of wood.
Again, the spell is in the words and in the intonation. A wizard casting a spell of hardness on a boy's Peter Pan flute. Would intone. A little boy who can't be good should just as well be made of wood. This rather mean meaning is, man-child, since you can never be good anyway, little sex toy boy, you might as well embrace your fallen nature and get an erection, which I might as well be using. Or, little boys who can never be good should just as well be sex toys.
I'm a mechanical boy.
From now on, I will be your obedient servant.
Every human male can remember getting spontaneous erections in the middle of junior high school math class, or worse, in the middle of gym for no apparent reason.
Foul ball.
It was then you always hoped to be saved by the bell.
Hey, Zach. Yo. Last night at the movies, you went too far.
Each one felt as if it was as obvious as the nose on their face.
Oh, look! What's happened? Oh, please help me!
You see, Pinocchio, a lie keeps growing and growing until it's as plain as the nose on your face.
She's right, Pinocchio. You better come clean.
I'll never lie again.
So, just where was Pinocchio supposed to put that nose?
Pick me, teacher! I'm ever so smart!
Oh, you brown noser. Now, none of this means that you can't just go with the good moral of these stories. You can. But that's not the point we are thrusting at you. The jab we are taking is simply this, so don't be a pussy. The occult uses word plays to flash their spells at the knowing, while still being able to hide behind your ignorant desire to remain a 40-year-old virgin. The effect is exactly like the gay choir song.
You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked? Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children.
Conversion is a Christian word. That's good, right?
Learn to love, learn to vogue, face your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them.
We're going to stop you from hate. Hate is wrong, right?
Your children will work to convert all their sisters and brothers. Then soon we're almost certain your kids will start converting you. The gay agenda is coming home. The gay agenda is here. But you don't have to.
You love your children, and we're going to change your children so they are gay. So doesn't unconditional love mean that you have to now love homosexuality unconditionally as you love your children? It's a spell, if you can see it. All of the logic is based on truths, but in the wrong context. This song, in fact, contains all three elements of spells, but we are getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh, please help me. I'm awful sorry.
Please, Your Honor. Miss Fairy?
Oh, look! What's happened?
We really shouldn't be doing this.
Oh, please help me. I'm awful sorry.
You see, Pinocchio, growing and growing, growing and growing, growing and growing, until it's as plain as the nose on your face.
She's right, Pinocchio. You better come clean.
For pleasure magic, all you gotta do is rub that lamp.
See, all you gotta do is rub that lamp, and I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be?
Aladdin's lamp is always portrayed the same way. Look it up on the internet and tell me what you see. All a little boy who can't be good needs to do is rub his lamp, and magic comes out the shaft.
Plain as the nose on your face.
Then he never has to lie again. Honest, he doesn't.
She's right, Pinocchio. You better come clean.
But Master, you in luck, 'cause up your sleeves you got a brand of magic never fails. It's heavy ammunition in your camp. It's heavy ammunition in your camp. You got some punch, pizzazz! Yahoo and how, say all you gotta do is rub that lamp. Say all you gotta do is rub that lamp. And I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be? What will your pleasure be? You never had a friend like me. Ha! Bow ball.
You never had a friend like me. Do you see how it works? Thus, the means of being mean are justified. Again, any concerned person trying to point this out, which is as clear as the nose on your face, is seen as a dirty-minded prick.
Hubba hubba. Stop that.
Who can't see the pure godly moral that the author really intended.
But remember, a boy who won't be good might just as well be made of wood.
Pinocchio is a morality book, right?
I'll never lie again.
Okay, self-righteous stupid person, ask yourself, what is the moral? Hear it. Who rewards your good deeds here? No. And how does one know which moral to choose? From a blue fairy and an insect spirit guide and a master toy puppet wind-up robot maker? Open your eyes. What happens if you don't obey the pagan blue fairy goddess?
But this is the last time I can help you.
A threat. Really? A threat? Did you hear it from the blue fairy? Remember occult color mind mapping and what blue means?
See, all you gotta do is rub that lamp, and I'll say, Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be?
Wordplays allow you to live with your eyes wide shut. Those in the know rely on plausible deniability to get away with their crimes. It all depends on what the meaning of is. Sexual innuendos is a hard topic to stay on top of, vigorously. As a tool, it comes closest to filling the gap between humor and sexuality. In this, it stands proud and erect in the English language. While there are no hard and fast rules as to how this tool is used, it can at times be a great point of entry and very funny. Many people have gasped or grunted over the ins and outs, and it's hard to know whose ball is in whose court in this. But today, the common man and woman at the root of the topic are firm and well-rounded. However, full penetration of the subject requires that the reader take a long, hard look at the target and be a cunning linguist in order to avoid limp phrases and imbue the phrase with a large handful of hidden meanings in order to gain the fullest effect. The subject can become hot by attempting to grasp it, and the more one experiments with it, the more interested they become in conquering its climactic issues. Also, as our language changes, innuendos must change in order to fill the newly found holes and satisfy listeners whom they may not have considered before their discovery. Experimentation, therefore, is highly encouraged, and many allowances must be made before one can relate to the greater masses of mankind.
Hubba hubba.
They see it as a type of Judas clause. Let's use Catcher in the Rye for an easy example before getting harder.
Stop that.
In chapter 23, after our guide through this book, horny teenager Holden Caulfield has spent part of a night sitting in his little sister's bed, telling her how beautiful she is, with double entendres and innuendos. The scene ends with this.
I'd keep in touch with her. She told me I could sleep with her if I wanted to. But I said no, that I'd better beat it. Then I told her again I'd give her a buzz if I got a chance.
Well, ain't that swell now? At least Hold On has the sense to beat it instead of sleeping with his sister, old Phoebe. But this, of course, isn't what it means. It's all innocent, right? It's these subconscious double meanings where the spell does its work. Were JD to have come right out and said,
I always struggled with sexual attraction to my young sister Phoebe, and as she was sitting there all alone with her legs spread on her bed, I couldn't stop thinking about her. When she offered to let me cuddle with her for the night, I said instead, no thanks, I'll just jack off somewhere and think about you, but thanks for offering since you know I'd buzz you up if I ever got the chance.
It's the play on words that make it effective. The straightforward meaning and all plays against the subtext in the mind, where it can work to bring about the wanted effect. So what is the wanted effect here? And is that the same effect wanted by the end of the book? Hold on. Now, we don't have time to machinate on this too long and too hard, so we'll get straight to our point and beat it out instead. Then we'll come back later for more, okay? How many millions of children have been forced to read The Catcher in the Rye in school because somebody declared it to be a classic? I know it was forced on me.
Hubba hubba.
It's really X-rated and all, but since Hollywood has decided that X ratings don't apply to children 17 and up, NC-17, perhaps reading Catcher in your junior year and all catches you at just the right time.
Bark.
Are you joking?
Don't talk back to me. You may only say, yes, master. Now walk around the room like a dog. Bark.
Oof. That's awful.
Do it properly.
Woof! Woof!
That's good.
Fetch.
We'll have more to say on this book soon enough, so hold on. Using real Luciferian magic, we have the power to go back in time and hear Holden tell us his story himself. But we haven't quite worked out the bugs in Mr. Peabody's time machine yet.
He's my boy.
And we haven't found the right medical experimental injection to give you yet.
I'd have to laugh at that. I should be prosecuted.
So you'll have to wait a little longer. In the meantime, just remember that word plays consist of homonyms, doublespeak, newspeak, and innuendo that can function as command triggers for the programmed, but can also place thoughts in the subconscious mind of the public, gradually. We don't want to stretch it and you out too much during the ride. We'll have more to say on this book soon enough, so hold on. Let's explore repetition and circular reasoning and all.
Your mind is now mine, and you love this feeling. You realize nothing matters except for my spiral and my voice. And now that your head is just completely clear of everything that is not my spiral and my voice, I want you to start thinking about Speedos. And as you think about Speedos, you think about how much you love them. How you love how they feel, how they make your bulge feel, and how you can just swim so much better, so much faster, and they feel just so much more free. You realize you love Speedos.
You may have heard professional hypnotists on stage or in a therapy session use repetition to help put a mind into a trance state. What you may or may not have noticed is the logic that they use to keep the mind hooked in on the goal. First, a situation is established, and then it is connected to a consequence that turns it back to the situation. It's sort of like this. the harder you work, the higher your taxes. And the higher your taxes, the harder you work. And the harder you work, the higher your taxes. And the higher your taxes, the harder you work. That's one of the government's spells. Here's another one.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities.
But
we are concerned about trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. Some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news
has
become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Believe it or not, each of those was a separate news reporter. 66 different news channels across the U.S., in fact. All were using the exact same script. We merely placed them on top of one another so you could hear all 66 of them at the same time. How is it that all these different news channels and cable outlets all have the same exact repetitive words? Not so much. Obviously, the reasoning here is circular. Believe the pre-planned soundbite you're given, regardless of the broadcast company, and accept the solution to the problem that we give you. It's not your job to think the news believes. It's your job to believe what they say. Here's one famous news reporter saying just that.
The dangerous, edges here are control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
The third part of all hypnosis therapy and indoctrination is repetition through real-world truths. There must be enough recognizable reality before the mind can suspend its disbelief and take the journey.
You feel my words are very strong now. So strong, in fact, that you don't even hear them so much as feel them right now. Good boy. You know what it means when a strong man tells you to just relax now. And the moments of dreams and fantasies seem like when the subconscious mind rises to the surface, like a great sigh coming over your body from head to toe, just a wonderful feeling, a wave of relaxation, and how sometimes a special word or phrase can bring on that feeling of totally relenting all control. Now, good boy. And a good boy obeys. Good boy. And you can obey without even really hearing it, because you already hear good boy. And there are people who have some power over you simply because you trust in their authority. And that feels good, doesn't it? Good boy. Because you know very well that you are being trained like a good boy to obey a good authority, to obey the authority of the man who is calling you his good boy, just like an eager pup. Good boy. And every time a dominant man calls you a good boy, you will enjoy this phrase and the wonderful power it has over you. Good boy.
A very accessible spell was the one cast on us by Seinfeld when our greater society wanted to change the perception of open homosexuality from queer to new normal. Start to talk about any homosexual in society today, and you will find 9 times out of 10 that the conversation ends with,
of all of Seinfeld's iconic catchphrases.
I am loving this yada yada thing.
She said I wasn't sponge-worthy. Giddy up. Hello, Newman.
Mulder.
No soup for you.
One of the most iconic is made up of just 7 little words.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
But when they first read through this episode, something about this scene felt off. Here's Castle Rock executive Glenn Paddock.
And we had a very unhappy, difficult table reading. It just didn't feel good, didn't feel funny.
Being gay was still thought of as a big risk to a person's career, as evidenced by all the people who said Ellen would never work again after she came out a few years later. But overt expressions of homophobia weren't as socially acceptable as they had been in decades past.
We had to do something about the fact that we were saying it's awful to be gay.
And Jerry and Larry said, let's shut it down and work on this.
The executives didn't just want them to work on it, they wanted to cancel the episode completely. So with the table read for The Outing shut down and executives pressuring them to trash the script, the writers struggled to find a fix. How could they have Jerry's character explain that he's not gay without it coming off like he thinks being gay is the worst thing on earth?
We were discussing the problem in the office with Larry Charles, who was the writer of the episode, and he said, these guys, there's nothing, they can be gay, there's not that there's anything wrong with it. And I said, that's the line. That's the line. And I remember the exact moment. I remember where he was standing right by the door. I said, that line has to run through the whole show and then we can get away with it.
No, everyone's gonna think we're gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And what's that discomfort about? Not being thought of as gay, but being thought of as homophobic for denying that they're gay. The show also won an award from GLAAD for its positive message, and showing up to receive it was NBC's Warren Littlefield, without whom Seinfeld would never have been on the air.
If in some small way we have increased awareness, tolerance, and acceptance of gay-themed issues in the media, then we welcome that as a happy byproduct of our work.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? All right, we'll see you later.
He's the phone man. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
See how it works? Human sexuality has always been complicated, which is why God placed many rules on it. Real people in real-world settings fall in and out of love with others and can't always control why and when it happens. Since this isn't always strictly under our control, Lucifer would have us believe that any actions that come from it aren't our fault either. This is the catcher in the lie. Even BFFs and bromances happen. But humans always have the free will to choose what they do with it. And even if we catch our eye wandering suddenly, we have the power to remember our commitments to spouse, children, and God, and family, and our covenants, and put a bridle on our passions. We all know this intrinsically.
No, we didn't program people that weren't members of the group. You cannot install significantly traumatic mind control programming in a person who is not a member of the group. Now, what you can do is what we call passive programming, which is basically through media means. You know, you can set, if someone's watching a television program, they go immediately into alpha state. Everyone in the group, I mean, even a baby in the group knows that because these people are very much into behavioral psychology, and that's a trance state almost, a very relaxed state where messages can be implemented. And that's why I very strongly suggest people be very careful about the TV shows they watch. That's all I'll say about that.
We will have more on this. Back through the water curtain. Hate is wrong, right? But wait, didn't God say in the Bible that he would create enmity, that means hatred, between those who loved the Christ and those who loved Lucifer? He did say that. He also said, Jacob, meaning true Israel, have I loved, and Esau, meaning the Illuminati claim today over the world, I have hated. So if God created hatred, and one loves the ways of Lucifer, how does that work? I admit it can be hard unless you're on top of it. But if you are at the bottom, at least you have until the judgment day to figure out how you swing. Perhaps this daddy bear said it best in terms of at least the law of Moses.
So somebody sent me this clip of people at a Pride March shouting out, we're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children.
We're coming for your children.
And of course, when they were called out on this, they just said, hey, it's a joke, it's mockery. You know, kind of like the Gay Men's Choir in San Francisco who said the exact same thing. So I get it. You guys like jokes. I've got one for you. Once upon a time, there was a bunch of people that threatened to mess with other people's children. And then when they tried to make good on the attempt, they were brutally mauled beyond recognition by a father who identified as a grizzly bear. See, it's funny because it would be true.
That's a good boy. Rationale for fair use of copyrighted items used. Fair use law allows fair use when copyrighted material is being used to make a specific educational, research-based, scholarly, and/or critical comment on the work being used.
How do you do? My name is Peabody. This is Sherman.
Hello. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
I consider that an excellent recommendation.
Masters Mahan will continue.
In the 1920s, Rockefeller changed medicine from plant-based to crude oil synthetics. 95% of all pharmaceuticals on the world's market are unnatural and not made for our bodies. A group of elite bloodlines were sharing their daily vitamins and minerals secretly, until now. This is their formula according to the whistleblower. May he rest in peace. Anna Datko and Nicole Orozco, owners of the Flame USA newspaper, partnered with entrepreneur James Carner to create a supplement company that brings the world back to organic plant-based medicine. After years of publishing whistleblower documentation on their Truth newspaper, the team paired up and started their own supplement company and are teaching people about the dangers of modern medicine. Because we are not excreting toxins, it is truly changing our DNA. Check out Elite Potion, what billionaires take now at elitepotion.com. Now, back to Cause Before Symptom with your guest host, Urban.
If you're looking for a publication that delivers honest takes and critical insights into the issues of our day, then look no further than the Flame Paper. The Flame Paper is written for the people, by the people, who aren't afraid to challenge a mainstream narrative, be it healthcare, voter fraud, political correctness, or even the one world government. The Flame is full of timely articles, reports, and expert advice written by freedom-loving, truth-telling experts, journalists, and concerned citizens. To subscribe, go to theflameusa.com.
And with that, my friends, that is the end of what we have planned for you right now. James will be back later tonight with a show. I don't know what he's got planned, but I'm sure it'll be something really interesting. He may talk a little bit about this, but we'll see. There's a little bit more, and it's very important. The last section goes over what's known as Armageddon Programming and a full analysis of the Catcher in the Rye. It's definitely worth checking out. So if we don't cover it on this show, I would highly suggest you check out the links in the description and check it out yourself. Because that's what's going on right now in the world. With that, guys, it has been my pleasure to be your guest host for these few nights. I appreciate the opportunity to do that for you, and I truly hope that you guys have enjoyed this content while James has been out mining for gold. So one last promotion for my good friends over at the Imagination Podcast. If you want to hear what's really going on, hear it from the people who've gone through it. And Emma at the Imagination Podcast interviews survivors of ritual and institutional abuse, over 200 at this point. So the way that I look at it is, maybe a handful of them are making some things up, but I don't think you can get 200 people with commonalities in their stories to make something up so insane. It might just be true. So just some words to leave you with. I appreciate it. Take care, all. Thank you.
The Imagination Podcast has the largest roster of satanic and institutionalized ritual abuse survivors, professionals, and researchers. On her podcast, Emma interviews tons of interesting and unique individuals, all of whom have a story to tell. Emma has over 200 interviews with survivors who detail the traumatic injustices that they were subjected to, some of which by their own government. You can find Emma's links at direct.me/The Imagination Podcast. Now, back to Cause Before Symptom with your guest host, Urban.